A Big Ten team sits atop the first net rankings of the year, but it's not the same Big Ten team that AP voters have number one.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks, and welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, a daily national college hoop show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcasting network. I'm your host, Andy Patton, and you are joining at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network. Want to thank all of you for making this show your very first listen or watch of the day. And of course, give a special shout out to those everyday listeners as well, and those of you hanging out with us in the Locked On College Basketball Discord community. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. And folks, you will get $20 off your first purchase. Well, lots to get to today. The net rankings are here. We're going to break down the biggest surprises, the biggest differences between the Nets top 10 and the AP top 10, talk about the best conferences through the first month of the season and more. Then we're going to get into some game previews. Not a lot of exciting action on Monday, but Tuesday, oh boy, we got the start of the ACC-SEC Challenge, 9 great games, including 2 ranked-on-ranked matchups, all taking place on Tuesday. We also have the start of the Big Ten Conference slate. Couple Big Ten teams in action on Tuesday, including the number one team in the country. And then we also got to talk about another incredible standalone game. It's not just ACC versus SEC. It's not just Big Ten conference play. We also got an incredible matchup between the Big 12 and the Big East. UConn versus Kansas taking place. We're going to talk about that game as well. But we start with the big news to kick off the month of December. On Monday, the net rankings were revealed. They always reveal them in early December after about a month of college basketball action has happened, because they need some data points in order to actually make the net rankings work. And so now that we have that data, we have a month's worth of games, we're able to take a first look. And again, as a reminder, the net rankings are updated literally every single day. So they will shift even by the time you're listening to this, as I'm recording this Monday evening. They will be a slightly different from where they were, but we're talking about the initial net rankings that came out on Monday morning. The top 5 in the net on Monday, Michigan at number 1. Cannot be surprised by this. They have a tremendous record. They have not lost a game. They picked up 3 incredible, dominant blowout victories in the Players Era Festival against San Diego State, Auburn, and Gonzaga. They are at number 1. Duke is at number 2. Purdue comes in at number 3, despite being number 1 in the AP poll. Vanderbilt comes in at number 4. They used to just be a baseball school. Now look at them having success on the gridiron and success on the hardwood in hoops as well. Big blow up going on right now for the Commodores of Vanderbilt. They're at number 4. And then Gonzaga, despite getting absolutely gobsmacked by Michigan by 40 points last week, Gonzaga still comes in at number 5, the highest ranked team that has a loss on their resume. Obviously, a big time win over Alabama and wins over Creighton, Oklahoma, and Maryland certainly help for the Zags, but a bit of a surprise to see them that high. For reference, AP has them at 11. Coaches poll has them at 11. They're a little bit higher than we might have expected here. 6 through 10 for the net rankings. Arizona at 6, Iowa State at 7, UConn at 8, Louisville at 9, and then Michigan State, given the Big Ten, another school in the top 10 as they come in at number 10. Some big differences between the AP, not huge differences between the AP, but the AP is higher on Purdue and Arizona. Obviously, they have Purdue at 1. Net has them 3. Arizona at 2, and then at 6 in the net rankings. Michigan, the flip of Purdue, 3rd in the AP poll and 1st in the net rankings. The biggest spread that I saw out of the top 10 at least was with Houston. Houston all the way down at 18 in the first net rankings of the season. Meanwhile, the AP voters still have them at number 8. Not surprised to see the movement of the AP voters a little bit slower on a school like Houston, whereas the net rankings is not going to take into account their preseason rankings as strongly. So it's not a surprise to see a big difference there. Looking at the power conferences by average, and I know that this is not the most foolproof way to evaluate how strong a conference is, especially because some of these conferences have some serious stragglers down at the bottom. In a conference like the Big East, which only has 11 schools, when you have a few teams not doing very well, it really drags down that average. But I think this still gives you at least a good kind of overlook at how the conferences have performed so far this season. SEC at number one, their average net ranking as a conference 54.2. Big 12 is next at 60.2. Big 10 is next at 69.3. ACC at 71.6. And then the Big East at 89.6, much lower for the Big East. But again, they're being dragged down heavily by a program like DePaul. And frankly, even the programs that are expected to be good have not performed up to speed. We've talked about that a few times on the show. Top 50 teams per conference, maybe a slightly better way to evaluate how these conferences are doing. SEC and Big Ten are in the lead at 9 each. So again, the SEC was pretty considerably ahead of the Big Ten by average, yet they both have the same number of teams in the top 50. But for the Big Ten, they're being dragged down heavily. There are some Big Ten programs that are really low in the inaugural net rankings, which is what is holding them back from being on the same level of the SEC, at least according to team average. So again, 9 each in the SEC and the Big Ten. For what it's worth, Missouri just missed at 51. 8 in the ACC. Shout out the ACC. Nice glow up for them this year. We'll talk more about that in the second segment. They had 8, and Cal was at 52, and Wake Forest was at 56. Big 12 only had 7, which feels surprising, but they did have 4 schools between 51 and 60. Oklahoma State at 53, TCU 54, Kansas State 55, and Central Florida at 58. Just 4 for the Big East, 3 for both the A10 and the WCC. Meanwhile, VCU, not one of those A10 schools, they are at 57, and then 1 each for the American, the Big West, the Ivy League, the MAC, the Missouri Valley, the Mountain West. Bit of a shocker there, only 1 school for them, and it's Utah State. And the Southland, of course, that is McNeese. Wyoming at 59, so they just missed being the second Mountain West school in this list. And Columbia, out of the Ivy League, shout out Columbia, they are at number 60. So a couple notables. Obviously, we already talked about Michigan, but they are the only school in the country with 3 quad 1 wins as of right now. So very clearly deserving of that top spot. The highest ranked team in the net that does not have a quad 1 win is Indiana, who comes in at number 11, just missing the top 10. They have not played a quad 1 game. They're 0-0 in the quad 1, but they have a quad 2 win, a quad 3 win, and they're 5-0 in quad 4. The highest team with a losing record in quad 1 games would be Kentucky. Kentucky comes in at number 15. They are 0-2 in quad 1 games, have not played a single quad 2 or quad 3 game, and they are 5-0 in quad 4. Beating up on those bad teams has Kentucky in a good spot right now, but they got North Carolina and Gonzaga this week, so we will see where they land after that. A couple surprise teams in a good way, a couple surprise teams in a bad way. Shout out the Butler Bulldogs, 21st in the inaugural net rankings. They're 1-1 in quad 1 games, and their loss was a 2-point loss on the road at SMU. They're 1-0 in quad 2, 4-0 in quad 4. Nice to see Butler having a resurgent season under Thad Matta. Yale is at 25 and Tulsa is at 27. Some fun mid-majors doing some good things. The Bulldogs of Yale have a quad 1 win, or 1-0 there, but they do have a quad 2 loss. Tulsa is 0-1 in quad 1, but they do have 2 quad 2 wins, Santa Clara, Herb Sendek, and the Broncos are at 32. Again, also 0-1 in quad 1, but they have 2 quad 2 wins. And then Seton Hall, Shaheen Holloway's team. We've been bagging on the Big East, but got to give a shout out to both Butler and Seton Hall having nice seasons. The Hall at number 50, 1-1 in those quad 1 games. Have not played quad 2 or quad 3, but they have beat up on bad teams, 6-0 in quad 4. And then the surprises in the not so good way. We already talked a little bit about Houston. They're down at 18, just 1-1 in those quad 1 games. Florida, the defending champs, all the way down at 33. They are 1-1 in quad 1 games and 0-1 in quad 2 games, which is what has them lower after that loss to TCU. Meanwhile, Texas Tech down at 37th. They are 0-2 in their lone quad one opportunities, although they are 7-0 the rest of the way. And then one of those teams that's really dragging down the Big Ten, like in a shocking way, is the Oregon Ducks. Folks, Oregon comes in at 192. I would include Oregon on this list of shocking teams if they were 92, but they are 192. A staggeringly bad start to the season for the Ducks, who are 0-1 in quad one games, have not played a quad two game, folks. They are 1-2 in quad three games after losing all three of their games in the Players Era Festival. And then last and nearly least in all of college basketball, a shockingly bad start to the season. For those of you who have not been paying attention to this, the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago, who had some people believing they could be a top 3, top 5 team, at least in the Atlantic 10 Conference this year, are one of the worst teams, period, in all of college basketball. In the first net ranking of the season, Drew Valentine's team is 354th in the net rankings, have not played a quad one game. They are 0-3 in quad two, no quad three games, and folks, a disastrous 1-4 in quad one game or quad four games for the Ramblers. Really rough stuff going on in Chicago for Coach Valentine. Hopefully they can right the ship. If not, he's going to be in his final season with that program. I can pretty much guarantee it. Well, we've teased this a few times already, but we got some great matchups coming up on Tuesday between the ACC and the SEC. 9 total games. And folks, last year, the SEC dominated this event. That may not be the case this year. I'll give you my thoughts on that coming up here in just a second. But first, the holidays always feel a little bit easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks, it makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to the door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals, they are huge. The quality of Omaha Steaks is exactly what you would hope for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking so much easier. And the variety is very underrated. You get steaks and burgers, sure, but you also get comfort meals, sides, and desserts. It's one of those gifts that truly fits anybody. And honestly, it's the kind of gift that brings people together. And best of all, you don't have to guess anybody's size. Save big on unforgettable gifts by using Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an additional 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, folks, I want to thank all of you for making Locked On College Basketball your first listen or watch of the day. And of course, thank you to all of you who have helped make Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. Continuing our conversation here, we're getting you ready for an incredible slate of games on Tuesday. We got the ACC-SEC Challenge getting underway. We're going to talk about that here. 9 games on Tuesday, 7 more on Wednesday. Great matchups both days, but it is hard to not think that Tuesday is the day for this event, as we got some incredible games here. We got a trio of blue bloods that are going to be in action. We're going to talk about each of these games, but we're going to spend more time on the 2 ranked on ranked matchups. Number 15, Florida, the defending champions. We have talked about how they've already struggled this year. They're going to have their hands very full at Cameron Indoor, taking on the number 4th ranked Duke Blue Devils. That game at 7:15 Eastern time on ESPN. FanDuel right now favoring Duke by 7.5. And this is going to be a really fun matchup between front courts in particular. We obviously have the tremendous success that we have seen in the early part of the season from Cameron Boozer. Isaac and I talked a lot about him on Monday's show. Check it out if you have not done so yet. He has been consistently excellent in every single game that he has played, whether it's against a team in the 300s at KenPom, whether it's against one of the best teams in college basketball. We should not expect any different from him against Florida, but it's a really good barometer for him going up against a front court as dynamic, as talented, and as deep as Florida's. They have Micah Handlocked in, they have Ruben Chinyelu, they have Tommy Houck, who's more playing the 3, and they have Alex Condon. And if all 4 of those guys play, they can be able to throw a bunch of different things at Boozer, whether they're going to double him, single coverage him. They can kind of make life more difficult for Boozer than perhaps Texas and Arkansas and some of those other teams really have the ability to do. I don't think that means that Boozer's going to have like an off night or anything like that. It's just a good opportunity to see him get tested in a way that I don't think he's really been tested up to this point this season. Obviously for Florida, the matchup as well is can their backcourt continue to be successful? We saw Xavier Lee kind of finally put together a really strong game in Florida's most recent game, but he's really struggled in that kind of off-ball role alongside Boogie Flan, and there was some belief coming into the year that that was going to be an issue for this team of how does Golden get these two guys to kind of play off of each other, and so far they haven't really quite found that. And while Duke's strength is more in their front court than their backcourt, they're going to make life really difficult on Flan and Lee with, they'll be able to throw like Caden Boozer at these guys and throw Foster at them. And they have some bigger guards. They have Dame Sarr, who could be a matchup issue for them as well. I'm really interested to see how this game plays out. It's going to be, there's 3 incredible ranked, unranked games on Tuesday. This one might be the most exciting. But next up on the list, number 16, North Carolina, going to Rupp Arena to take on number 18, Kentucky, 9:30 Eastern time. This one on ESPN. FanDuel favoring Kentucky at home by 7.5, even though they are the lower ranked team. As we said, Kentucky 0-2 in those quad 1 games. North Carolina is a quad 1 opportunity for Kentucky, even at home. This is another one that's going to be really fun in the front court. It's going to be really fun to see Henry Vasar and Caleb Wilson, the way that those two guys have been playing this year, playing well off of each other. Wilson is the best defensive freshman in the country. Frankly, one of the best defensive players in college basketball already as a true freshman. Vasar is absolutely massive, great rebounder, but can also kind of operate as a bit of a hub. I'm really interested in this game as well. Kentucky they really need to circle the wagons and kind of find a way to get back to playing Mark Pope basketball, Kentucky basketball. They've obviously been dealing with health issues throughout the season without having Jaden Quaintance, without having Jalen Lowe, but we have not seen this team play at their full potential, even with the players that they do have. And if they don't do that, they will lose, even at Rupp. They will lose to North Carolina. But again, the same is true for North Carolina. Their backcourt has been spotty this year. Kion Evans has had some good games. He's also completely disappeared from games that North Carolina has really needed him. And with Seth Trimble still on the shelf, this is not going to be a fully healthy North Carolina team either. So Kentucky can, they can say without Lowe that maybe this is a disadvantage for them, assuming Lowe doesn't play, but Carolina's not at full strength either. So maybe not the most exciting version of this game that we could get, but it's still going to be a really fun one, and always cool to see this game and really all of these games be played on campuses, because Rupp is going to be absolutely rocking with the Tar Heels in town. Couple other games in this ACC-SEC challenge. By a couple, I mean 7 more games to talk about here. Number 13, Tennessee, going on the road to take on Syracuse, 7 Eastern time on ESPN2. FanDuel favoring the Vols by 6.5. I'm also taking Tennessee in that one, and not sure it'll be that close, although shout out Syracuse. They have played a tough non-con up to this point this year. Tennessee, another big challenge for them. Virginia Tech out South Carolina, also on 7 Eastern time on the SEC network. FanDuel favoring the Gamecocks by 1.5. Give me Virginia Tech. Give me Virginia Tech to go pick up a nice road W here. I've liked what we've seen from VTech. They haven't been super consistent. If they are healthy, if they have Hansberry and Neo Avdalas in this game, I think they have enough talent to take down the Gamecocks. So give me Virginia Tech pulling off a minor, but still an upset and a win for the ACC. Next up, we got Oklahoma at Wake Forest, also 7 Eastern time on the ACC network. You can quite literally have 4 different games from this challenge all going at once. This game is at FanDuel, favored Wake Forest by 5.5, the home team. And yeah, I think Wake's going to win this one. Oklahoma hasn't really impressed me this year. Their front court is definitely not a super strength for them. Nigel Pack and Xavier Brown is a great backcourt, but Brown has been inconsistent for them this year. Tay Davis, very good player for them, the transfer from Notre Dame, but I think Wake Forest will be able to handle this one, especially the way Juke Harris has played this season. So give me another win for the ACC there in Wake Forest. Texas A&M going on the road to take on Pitt. Once again at 7 Eastern time on ESPNU, FanDuel favoring the road team, A&M, by 1.5. With the McKenzie and Mbako back, Buckyball looks like they are rolling in the right direction. Had a really strong week last week. Meanwhile, Pitt seems like they're not going in the right direction. So yeah, give me the Aggies to go get a road W here and boost their resume heading into conference play. Miami at Ole Miss, 9 Eastern time on the SEC network. FanDuel favors Ole Miss by 4.5. I like Miami. I like Miami in this one. I've been high on Miami throughout, probably higher than I should be on a new head coach in Jay Lucas, but we have seen this Miami team play really good at times when they are healthy. If they have everybody back for this game, I think they can go get a W over Ole Miss and the Rebels, which incidentally would not that it's going to impact too many Ole Miss's fans' overall mood this week because it's already not doing too good with the Lane Kiffin news, but that would just be another not so good piece of news for Ole Miss fans if Miami's able to come in and get a W. Georgia at Florida State is next, 9 Eastern time on the ACC network. FanDuel favoring Georgia by 2.5. Give me Georgia as well, and give me them to win and cover this one. I think Georgia is the better team, and I think that we're going to see that play out. I actually don't even think this one's going to be nearly as close as the 2.5 line. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia wins this one by double digits. Last game to talk about here is Mizzou at Notre Dame, 9 Eastern time on ESPNU. There's no FanDuel line as I record this right now, but give me Mizzou, Dennis Gates to get that one. Notre Dame looked good at times at the Players Era Festival, but I think Mizzou's roster is too talented with Mark Mitchell, Javon Porter. I think they're going to go get a W there. So that means that I have the ACC winning day one of this challenge, which is a reminder, last year the ACC had one win total in this event. They got absolutely clobbered by the SEC, but I have the ACC going 5-4 on day one with wins for VTech, Wake, Duke, Miami, and North Carolina, and losses and wins on the SEC side for Tennessee, A&M, Georgia, and Mizzou. Well, folks, the ACC versus SEC may dominate Tuesday's headlines, but honestly, the best game of the day might be between the Big 12 and the Big East. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, folks, the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams in the event for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets usually for events like this, that's the toughest part. And that's why the Game Time app is so clutch, because it finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. All you do is pull up the app, and the layout makes it super simple to scroll through matchups and compare views from your seat. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion and no having to hunt for all that fine print. You can set up alerts for teams and matches to make it easier to grab tickets the moment they drop so you don't have to miss out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and for any match, as well as any concert, any other sporting event by using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, folks, segment 3, closing out the show, continuing to get you ready for an incredible day of college basketball on Tuesday, December 2nd. Again, a slow day on Monday, but it picks up real quick on Tuesday. Wednesday's got some great games as well. More in this ACC-SEC challenge, some other fun standalone games as well. But this week, often finals week, usually quiet in the middle of the week. That's why I'm so glad we have this ACC-SEC challenge. But also, like we said, best game of the day might not be Florida Duke. It might not be Carolina and Kentucky. It might be between the UConn Huskies and the Kansas Jayhawks. Number 5 ranked UConn on the road at Fog Allen, taking on the 21st ranked Jayhawks of Kansas, 9 Eastern time on ESPN2. FanDuel favoring UConn to go on the road, get a W at Fog. Not a lot of people go there and win, but UConn is favored by 1.5. But the big question, and as I'm recording this, do not have an answer for you, whether Darren Peterson plays for Kansas. I'm honestly surprised that there was a FanDuel line on this game without an update on Darren Peterson. The fact that FanDuel's favoring UConn makes me think that there is the expectation that Peterson does not play in this game. If you see the line dramatically shift, probably an indication that they know something that maybe we don't. But that is the big question. We talked a lot about Kansas on a Monday show. We talked a lot about them late last week as well, because what they did in the Players Era Festival, finishing 3rd, winning all 3 of their games. Yes, they did not have the toughest strength of schedule in that event, with Notre Dame and Syracuse being 2 of their games, but they beat a very good Tennessee team, a still ranked Tennessee team. This team has played very well this year. And as a reminder, they've only had Peterson for their first 2 games. He has been out since then. We have seen Flory Badunga step into a bigger role as their leading go-to option offensively. We've seen Melvin Council and Trey White step into bigger roles with the ball in their hands. We've seen reserve guards like Elmarco Jackson in particular stepping up and playing really big roles. I mean, Jackson scored 15 points in the second half against Tennessee. That alone was a career high. He had never scored more than 12 points in a game, and he scored 15 and a half against an elite defensive program coached by Rick Barnes. That is excellent stuff for Kansas. The depth that they have showed, the resolve that they have showed to do this without their best player makes you feel real good as a Kansas fan, even heading into this game. But UConn's a different animal. This team is so deep and so talented and obviously so well coached. Both of these programs are. And UConn also is now at full strength. I imagine that Braylon Mullins is not at the level they want him to be yet. He's only played 1 game as we're recording this. He was dealing with an injury and missed all of the season until that last game. But so calling them full strength is maybe a bit of a misnomer, but ultimately they have all their players. They have all of their talent. They have Terrace Reed back, which would be a huge problem against Badunga in Kansas if he wasn't in the mix. This is going to be a blast of a game. Absolute blast. Peterson or not, but trust me, I want to see Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson going up against Silas Demery and Solo Ball and Braylon Mullins in this phenomenal backcourt for UConn is cinema. That is perfect basketball. Badunga versus Terrace Reed in the front court is going to be fantastic. Trey White, Alex Caravan, like there's just so much talent and versatility and scoring punch on these 2 rosters. I cannot wait. This is going to be a fantastic game. I do believe UConn goes in and picks up a W at Fog Allen if Kansas does not have Darren Peterson. But if Peterson plays, give me Kansas. I don't know what the line will be. I don't know if it'll shift, but give me Kansas to win if they have Darren Peterson, in part because it's going to be pretty darn hard for Danny Hurley to scout against Darren Peterson when he's only played in 2 games and hasn't played in a while. This team's going to be pretty new look, and that's a tough challenge for a coach, even a great coach like Hurley, to figure out kind of how to handle that. So give me Peterson and Kansas if he plays. If not, give me UConn, although that line's 1.5 for a reason. It's going to be a really, really close one. Tuesday is also the start of Big Ten conference play, and we got some fun matchups, 3 of them in particular, to talk about here as the season gets underway for that conference. Iowa going on the road to take on number 17 Michigan State. This should be a ranked-on-ranked game. Iowa, I believe, is 25th at the coaches poll, but they are unranked in the AP top 25. They should be. They've been great. They won the Acrisure Invitational, picked up wins over Ole Miss and Grand Canyon. Bennett Sturtz has been otherworldly good. Not that we're surprised. Again, we talked about him a lot on Monday's show, but it's going to be really fun to see Sturtz getting into conference play, taking on a very good, disciplined veteran Michigan State team led by Fears, but they also have great players in Cohen Carr. And of course, in the front court, Cooper and Kohler have been so good up front. This game, by the way, 7 Eastern time. You're going to have like 6 TVs going at 7 Eastern time tomorrow, or on Tuesday, excuse me. This game will be on Peacock. FanDuel favoring Sparty by 5.5. Yeah, give me Michigan State to win. I think 5.5 is a really good line. I think Michigan State probably ends up winning by a little bit more than that, but I think this one's going to be a close one throughout. It's going to be fun to see Bennett Sturtz in conference action. Next up, number 1 Purdue going on the road to take on Steve Peichel and Rutgers, 8 Eastern time on FS1. No FanDuel line as I'm recording right now, but give me Purdue regardless of what that looks like. Again, a road game for Purdue. Always good to get those road games out of the way. But if you're Purdue, you feel pretty good that your first road trip in conference play is taking on Rutgers. Not a very good team. Did not look good in the Players Era Festival. They weren't good last year, and they had 2 top 6 picks in the NBA draft. They are worse this year. It is a mess. I'm not sure how long Packel's going to keep his job, but I'm also not expecting him to do much of anything against this very, very good Purdue team. Final game to talk about here. Great West Coast Big Ten matchup here. 24th ranked USC going out to Eugene to take on Dana Altman and the Oregon Ducks. 10 Eastern time on FS1. FanDuel only favoring USC by 1.5. Kind of surprised me because Oregon has been capital B bad. They are 192nd in the net. Like we said earlier in the show, they are nowhere close to the top 25. They have been actively not good all season long. Their first game of the year, they needed 5 offensive rebounds in the final seconds to beat Hawaii. They only beat Rice by a possession. They've lost all 3 of the games they played in the Players Era Festival. And before you think, well, it's okay if you lose to Michigan, Gonzaga, and St. John's or whatever, they lost to San Diego State, Auburn, and Creighton. None of those teams are ranked. None of those teams are Auburn has been ranked. I think they are still ranked, actually, but the other 2 are not. Creighton's hasn't been ranked for a while, not since they got smacked by Gonzaga. San Diego State has been just flat out awful this season. So is Oregon. I think USC goes and wins this one. I think they win it by a good amount. But Oregon has some pride. And Dana Altman has historically kind of had middling to mediocre to flat out bad non-conference slates before picking it up in December, getting into the conference play and doing a lot better. We'll see if he does that again. This might be the start of Oregon turning things around. They're a talented roster. They got Nate Biddle. They got Jackson Shellstad, Sean Stewart, KJ Evans. This is a good team. But USC has played much better than I think a lot of people expected with such a new look roster. It was like, how is this group all going to come together? But they have looked very good. Marsh and Kofi and many others have just been excellent for this USC team. So give me USC going to Oregon, picking up a W. They're going to win it by 5+ points. So I'm smashing, taking them to cover here with a 1.5 point line right now against the Ducks. It's going to wrap it up for me today, but I'll be back with you all on Wednesday, recapping some of the best action from Tuesday and getting you ready for another great slate of games on Wednesday. So stick with it here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Cheers to the Mick Bruins. Let's go Wild Popes. And until next time, peace out.